Hello to everyone. My name is Thomas Bertani. I'm the founder of Oraclize. I will be moderating the panel on oracles and the providing of data to decentralized applications. So here we have Henri from Streamr, Dapps from Rhombus, Mariano from Maker, and Sergey from Chainlink. So we all believe that oracles will play like a critical role in the next steps of decentralized applications. So we really believe that oracles, we need oracles to be safe and to be scalable going forward. So let's try to understand during this panel what are the thoughts of the panelists. So I will start asking if maybe we can make a round of introductions, 30 seconds or something like that. So explain like who you are and how your project fits within the ecosystem.
Okay, hi, I'm Henri, co-founder of Streamr. Streamr is a real-time data network. You could maybe think of it as BitTorrent for real-time data streams instead of static files. So it's not an Oracle system. In this group photo of a smart contract, an Oracle, and a data source, we would be the data source. And obviously, there can be many different kind of applications consuming data from the network. So oracles are just one use case in there. Yeah, that's a brief one.
I'm Doug, co-founder of Rhombus. And Rhombus, I guess, in this picture is the Oracle platform. So we're trying to be an integrated platform that sources data, computes on top of it from multiple diverse data sources, and delivers a single value securely with a cryptographic payload to your smart contract on-chain. So we're the end-to-end solution for oracles.
Hi, my name is Mariano Conti. I'm the head of oracles at MakerDAO, and Maker is not an Oracle company. We build a DAI credit system, but we use and need price oracles for our product, and we've had them for almost 2 years now. So we use them all the time. Our ETHUSD oracle is almost like the reference Oracle now that a lot of projects use, but we wouldn't be called like an Oracle company. We're all an Oracle user mostly and creator.
Hi everyone, my name's Sergey. I work on something called Chainlink, which is a decentralized Oracle network, which means that what we focus on is generating a framework and a method by which people can select multiple oracles. So what that means is we have a way that you can select different Oracle providers on the basis of their reliability, on the basis of their performance, on the basis of their deposits. And we basically make a framework where a smart contract can get a decentralized resource to execute an Oracle-related query, to execute delivery of data, to execute payments. So we're focused on not as much making a single Oracle ourselves, but more on making a decentralized Oracle network where multiple oracles can participate and represent themselves reliably to smart contract users. And then smart contract users now have a large collection of oracles that they can use for various data feeds, IoT data, whatever data they need, all of that data can be organized within the Chainlink network and organized in a way that provides them proof that the mechanism they're relying on to trigger their contract is indeed reliable.
Thank you. So the first time I saw the blockchain oracle term being used was in like an article on the official Bitcoin wiki. Well, actually, it's not official, but it was the first wiki for the Bitcoin project. It's the bitcoin.it project. And if you go there, you can still see that there is a page on oracles dating back to 2011 or 2012, something like that. Still, back then, nobody was really, needing oracles in their applications yet. Today, in most like conferences in the space, we see some tracks on oracles and providing data to applications. So my question here for the panelists is like, what is the current status, and do you think today there is any application in production that is showing a real need for oracles yet, other than Maker?
Yeah, I'll give you guys a chance to answer, but I want to share my view in that, you know, the stack of technologies that we're going to build Dapps on in the future will be a little bit kind of broader than what we've seen so far. Like if we think about Dapps, we easily think about a front end and a smart contract back end only. And in that kind of setting, it's highly important, of course, to have a data transport between the real world and the smart contract, and it will continue to be so. But in the future, Dapps will use many different kind of service layers to operate. This will include like decentralized file storage, such as IPFS, decentralized databases, decentralized data pipelines like Streamr, and the smart contracts to contain the validated application state and do value transfers and so on. So I think it's best to think of Dapps as a slightly larger picture in the future, and where you mentioned the old Wikipedia article, in some sense, that was reflecting probably the state of Dapps that still was the kind of de facto standard a year or 2 years ago, but I think it's kind of expanding. And to kind of comment on what kind of Dapps there are in production or can be in production, the range of those will be very broad, and some of them might not use oracles at all. I mean, you could have like an instant messenger app like Status, for example, that doesn't rely on smart contracts and oracles, but rather uses different message transports and so on. So, so yeah, I'll let you guys answer the oracle question.
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of people talk about layer 2, but in many ways there's a lot of layers, and oracles are their own layer. Rhombus is trying to be that end-to-end oracle layer that computes on complex data from different sources, and Dapps will pick and choose the right tools that they need in order to deliver the value that people are willing to pay for. So for us, what's showing early value is insurance. And just to give you an example, we have satellite data, and the satellite data with our computational layer on top, we have machine learning, machine vision. You can create a Dapp that can insure crops or insure any random event in the world based on data that's coming from satellites or weather data, or people on the ground that are actually recording the data. And those people can be compensated for the work that they do using these insurance feeds. So we will compute some complex query or model on all of this input and deliver a single value to a Dapp, and that Dapp will pay out instantaneously. And this is very different from the way insurance works today, where the insurance company is incentivized to basically get in the way as much as possible and keep you from getting the money that you need. So we're very much looking forward to insurance-type applications.
I would say one interesting thing we are working on is we're removing a lot of complexity on-chain, and we're moving a lot of computation off-chain. But even then, we're removing staking, we're removing reputation from the blockchain, because once you start scaling to several hundred different price oracles, with each one being maybe 100 different sources, the gas prices start really ballooning into something that's not really sustainable. And you want to keep that to the minimum. There are a few oracles that can probably give you a couple of weeks of arbitration and validation, say a prediction market. Well, okay, it's closed, and then you have time to actually have the market come together on an answer. But something like prices, you need the price now or a minute from now, or like we're going to have delays of 1 hour at most. So you cannot have, at least from the way we're building right now, you cannot have a lot of stuff on chain. So what we're working on right now is just offline computation, distributing signed messages, and just the only thing you do on chain is validating correct sources and updating state, and that's it.
Yeah, the thing that we've been seeing is that there's kind of a priority order in the adoption of data-driven Dapps or externally connected smart contracts. We're seeing a good amount of people, you know, like the folks at DAI that have on-chain financial products for the crypto community, because there's substantial demand for that, because the crypto community is growing, which is fantastic and very, very exciting to see. Then after that, I would say you have the teams that make on-chain financial products that aren't for the crypto community. These are teams that have a background in derivatives and have recently entered the space, maybe a year or 2 years ago, and they have substantial experience in actually making very high-quality financial products, and they want to make them on-chain. And then you get into the more enterprise world, where the banks, and you know, there's been a number of announcements from banks where they are using blockchains for their backend, and so then you see that, but that is rarely announced because it's more well, it's just more private. It's an enterprise. They have a different life cycle of how they work and put things out. So I think the on-chain financial products, both going from public for crypto, public for non-crypto, and private, that's where we see a lot of adoption, because there's immediate customer demand there. After that, I think we see a lot in insurance. Insurance is a very slow-moving industry, partly because of the barriers to entry for people to start insurance companies. But the overall gain to insurance companies from being able to make trustworthy, deterministic, programmatic digital agreements with people is like an industry revolutionizing thing. And the smart, forward-looking people in that industry, they understand that. So, I mean, yeah, I would kind of echo what a lot of people are saying. It's on-chain financial products, and then insurance is also a very, very, a colossal opportunity that just moves a lot slower than other industries.
Cool. So basically, what you have all just said is that there is a lot of potential for financial applications. Some are in production, some are not in production yet, and there are some open challenges. So one that was briefly mentioned is the scalability one and the cost of having on-chain transactions for all the data, and the one of delegating to an off-chain context more complex computations. And we also see that this is a trend. So we all know that there are many like proof of authority based sidechains that are being launched, and we know that basically in some cases we are deciding to giving up on the full decentralization or trustless concept as like a temporary solution while we build the proof of stake, sharding, and all the technologies that will enable on-chain scalability. So what does this mean for data-dependent applications? So when we first started, when Ethereum started, there was still the idea of code is slow and trustless as a positive, like a negative connotation for trust, and vague definition of trustlessness. So every time I speak with people outside of our ecosystem, they tell me, okay, but what does trustless even mean? Being trustless seems negative, not positive. And while when we speak about trust, we try to avoid trust, right? Because we want to design a perfect system that can be autonomous and things like that. So here, when data has to be used, typically we use external data sources. So the data comes from somewhere, and we have to trust the data source. The main challenge we have right now is proving that the data is being delivered correctly to the blockchain so that it's authentic. But we have another problem, and basically the problem is that we are somehow compromising trustless projects and making them trustworthy at best. So can you comment on that, and what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so I would say like the path to like true decentralization, true trustlessness is there, but the problem is we need solutions now. So I always say, and this is a joke, but I always say that they gave the task at Maker to an engineer to build the oracles. I got them done in like 6 weeks for the first prototype. If it had been a researcher, we would still be in alpha. We wouldn't have launched yet. So we launched with what we had at the moment, and we've been iterating ever since and trying to come up with better and better solutions. But I wouldn't say that I want to try to find now the ultimate solution. I just want to go like step by step to getting something a little bit better each time.
And do you think we need an ultimate solution? I mean, we are just assuming people care about full decentralization. The reality, if you look at the last 20 years of history, is that with file sharing, this is not what really happened. There is a nice article that I invite everyone to read called Minimum Viable Decentralization, which is really interesting and explores this concept and looks at the fact that the decentralization is really critical at the core of the platform, but then you need somehow to compromise in some cases. Do you agree or not? And maybe someone else wants to share their thoughts.
Yeah, I think an engineering requirement of being above or untouchable by any government is not required for a lot of the applications that we see. So we're interested in providing and meeting the security needs of the people who are building the dApps. And very often, as soon as you have some data source, you have decided on a jurisdiction under which all of the stuff, all the things that you're operating on are being judged under. So data often removes that security, the engineering requirement of being above and fully decentralized and being above the law. So yeah, we're interested in meeting people exactly where they are and working towards building new tools to decentralize. And that includes zero-knowledge proofs and all these exciting things that are coming down the line.
So you're saying that it depends on the application? Some applications need a higher degree of decentralization, some may not.
Yeah, for microinsurance, they're subject, the microinsurance contracts are subject to the jurisdictions in which, so we're doing Puerto Rico hurricane insurance, and they have to meet all the Puerto Rican laws, so you don't need full decentralization. You just need a certain level of KYC and guarantees around your data.
Yeah, I mean, talking about centralization and decentralization in the context of data is interesting, since usually the starting point, the origin of the data is centralized, right? It comes from an IoT sensor, it comes from a user using an application, and we can try and build the infrastructure, we can try and build the transport to be like end-to-end secure, we can sign data at the source and so on, but at the end of the day, how can we know that, for example, some measurement represents the state of reality, right? Like okay, so this is a temperature sensor right here, right? And now it's showing the right temperature. But what if I do this? Right? So there's no way to know that the readings are correct unless you have good coverage of like many sensors measuring the same thing and apply some computation to produce an aggregate value and so on. But at the source, at the very source, the data is centralized, and we need to have the decentralized trustless transport, and we need to have the reliable computation to derive value out of that. But at the lowest layer, it's always centralized.
Yeah, just want to add real quick. The way to decentralize IoT data is to just have more observations. So one of the things we're really interested in doing is encouraging the entire ecosystem to pay money out to more devices recording all the time, because that's how you become sure that something actually happened in nature.
Thanks. Yeah, I think this is a very important question that I actually have a pretty formed and more firm opinion on myself personally. I think that at the end of the day, the fundamental value of our space is that we have a way to guarantee outcomes. Smart contracts guarantee outcomes. in a way that no other form of digital agreement can guarantee outcomes. This is the unique property of this technology, period, right? Why do people like Bitcoin? Because they have a guaranteed ownership. They have guaranteed control, right? They have a guaranteed outcome. So smart contracts, as they expand what they do, will need to retain this guarantee. So then the question is, does this guarantee provide value to use cases other than token ownership and token movement? From what I've seen in derivatives, the financial products industries, insurance, trade finance, having contracts where an outcome is guaranteed is extremely valuable. And the reason people don't see it is because when you talk to them about trustlessness, it's not a concept, right? They don't have this concept of guaranteed outcomes. But the people in this room and the people like at this event, they've got that concept. They've got very excited because it makes a ton of sense, right? What type of contract would I want? A contract with a guaranteed outcome, or a contract with an outcome where somebody might just screw me over any minute, right? So if that property, if that unique property is valuable, then the question becomes, how do we retain that unique property while we expand what a smart contract can do, while we expand out into things other than tokens, right? Because the cryptographic signatures, they are reliable and so on. And the answer there is, the only answer that I can currently see is how have people done that for the contracts, for the state. They've done it through decentralization, which essentially is just large redundancy on the basis of a cryptographic protocol. And so that's what they do, right? That's what provides this unique guarantee. So I think that if that unique guarantee has value, then people will try to extend it to all parts of the system as long as the costs are manageable and as long as they can do that, right? So that means that if I have a contract that's deterministic, that doesn't have error handling, doesn't have fallback scenarios, and once it's triggered, in my budget, I'm going to pay more to make sure it's triggered correctly, which means I'm going to pay for multiple people to verify. Maybe I pay for multiple data sources because I value this unique property, and I want to maintain it throughout the end-to-end operation of my agreement. I mean, that's my fundamental assumption.
Yeah, I think those insights were interesting. Something worth expanding on, but we don't have much time, is that sometimes the data is not like exactly the same when we ask to different data sources. So there may be different aggregation methods that may need to be defined and things like that. So at the moment, I guess this is still an open challenge on how do we lower the likelihood of something to fail on a data-dependent contract, so that we can say it is guaranteed and that we don't have the problem. This is not a problem which is solved, or we would have it at the protocol level within new blockchains that are being proposed. Instead, what they are saying is basically non-determinism has to stay out. So this is an open challenge, I guess, for all of the 5 of us on stage and for many others within the community. On that front, where do you see your project to provide like something unique? Like, what do you bring to the table? Let's say we start from different assumptions on our project, like MakerDAO needs something now that fits their needs. Chainlink, Rhombus, and Oraclize probably have similar objectives, but starting from different assumptions. And Henri with Streamr is working on the data source front, right? Trying to provide like a registry or like a reference point where you can go and get data efficiently into the blockchain or outside of the blockchain. So do you guys think our projects are complementary, and how do you think we could cooperate more in the future? Like, do we solve complementary needs or not?
Yeah, I just spoke, so I'll let Henri start.
You want to start?
You haven't started yet. So
Okay. So actually, Maker is starting to get into the Oracle as a service business as well. So I would put us also in the Rhombus Chainlink Oraclize business now. We provide oracles for Polymath and Augur, and this just became like, it happened organically. We built something for ourselves, and then a couple of people started asking, and then it's like, okay, we like your solution, can you build it for us? And it's like, we're not an Oracle company, like we need this for our product, and they said, no, okay, just try, and now we're offering this, and we're gonna come up with some announcement soon. And one thing that could eventually happen is aggregation of actually different sources. So we would be one, and then Chainlink would be one, but there needs to be a lot of talk between. There have been talk about EIPs, TCRs. I don't know if that's in the future, but I mean, it could be one way to advance like everybody's business, and with doing so, like coming up with better sources.
I think one of the ways we can cooperate is just by competing. I think we all have very different philosophies about what the market wants or where the value is, and we can all be right, and we're all developing it in a different way. Rhombus sees value in connecting the data suppliers all the way to the end to the data consumers. So we would just like to encourage the proliferation of more people being compensated for recording interesting data. And I think a lot of that will occur when data insurance becomes a thing. So if you can start insuring data feeds, you can use those premiums to compensate people all the way down to the IoT devices, or people putting weather data devices out in Puerto Rico and seeing what the wind speeds are. So that's, I can just speak to that, but I think competition is usually the best way.
For me, the position of sitting here is easy because we're not competing with you guys in any way. Our goal is to make data available, and that will of course benefit all of you. There's two aspects to making data available. One is building the infrastructure that can be used to hold and transport that data, but the other aspect is incentivizing people to share data, to make it available. Like, it doesn't magically become available. The person needs to choose to make it available, and in there we can work on stuff like adding possibilities to monetize your data and so on. So data will become much more flexible and much more available compared to the current siloed situation that exists today. And I would assume that probably for you guys, the typical use case is to fetch data from some web API and then transport it to a smart contract. But the web API is another silo. It's vulnerable to DDoSing. It doesn't give you guarantees about the origin of the data. You can prove that it was fetched from that API, but not beyond, right, down to the individual user or IoT sense or whatever. And this is something that we are hoping to enable for you guys.
Thanks. I think collaboration makes a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, from the perspective of the end user, they're going to probably want, in many cases, to use multiple oracles, in my opinion. And even if they don't want multiple oracles, they're going to need a framework to understand what an oracle's quality is, right? The oracle is such a critical piece of how a contract ends up working that there's going to need to be a framework that describes this oracle is reliable, this oracle is less reliable, and this oracle is unreliable. And that framework is going to have to be presented to the user to show them, you know, this is how much you can pay for a more reliable oracle with these features, with these guarantees. This is how much you can pay for less reliability. Maybe you get less reliable oracles, but more of them. Maybe you get more reliable oracles, but fewer of them. It's not completely clear how that's going to evolve. I mean, from my perspective, I think the thing that makes sense is that the space comes to some idea of, this is what defines a reliable oracle. This is what a user should consider to be capable of reliably triggering their contract, right? So that's, I mean, that's part of what we're working on, but that's why I have this belief. But at the end of the day, I think what will evolve is there will be multiple entities that provide oracles, and there'll just be a way to choose among them on the basis of industry standard design patterns. That, you know, this design pattern provides me certain guarantees. Here I am going to buy these oracles.
Excellent. So to follow up on Mariano's suggestion of having like a public discussion on this, I think there are already some EAPs being discussed, and also within the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, there are some discussions going on. However, they just cover the needs of like some parts of like the work we are currently doing. So what my previous question wanted to somehow trigger, and I think I failed on that front, is trying to understand like how many components the oracles in general have, if we had to abstract them out, and like on which of those components our projects were mostly focusing on. I think we can follow up on this discussion later. We don't have time for questions, maybe for a very quick one from the audience. Very quickly, thank you.
So is there anyone that's going to be the consumer reports of these data sources that will help a lay consumer make that choice? I'm going to pay extra to get a more reliable data set. Somebody's going to have to be the judge of that, yeah.
I guess that's why many of the systems here propose some kind of incentive mechanisms, but maybe, yeah, you can go ahead, sir.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's what Chainlink seeks to do. We seek to make an open source impartial framework that is community driven around how do you define what a reliable oracle is, and then make a network where anybody who wants to participate as an oracle operator can provide a service as an oracle operator, as a company, as an individual, whatever, and then their performance, their security guarantees are all assessed and represented to end users. So that's, I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah, I think this is also strictly tied to your previous comment on the fact that we don't know yet how much people and applications are willing to pay to get data. At the moment, I think on public blockchain, Oraclize is probably the most widely used, and right now most clients already complain for a cost of 5 cents. So we don't know yet. Probably if this is in few years still the case, there is not probably much space for punishing oracles which are not behaving well, but time will tell.
Well, in the case of our oracles, everything is open source, the smart contracts, the software we use for each operator to push the prices. So if you just know what you're looking for and read some documentation, you can actually go back 2 years and look at block per block per block of what the prices were, if they were correct or not. And we've seen people come up with their own assessments and say, like, during the first couple of months, they were saying, hey, they were so shitty. And I said, yeah, okay, that was just like my computer running them, like, before we were even live, right? So give me some slack, cut me some slack with that. But after that, they became, like, very reliable. So if everything is on the blockchain, you can, at least the data, you can easily verify if it's correct or not.
Yeah, it's the same for us, and I'll just make this quick, but we have all of our Oracle data going back, and people can look at that and make their own assessment. We also provide tools to look at the data sources we're going to provide for whatever custom Oracle you need, and see into the reliability of that underlying data. We can provide models to predict, like, whether it will misreport in the future. And then I think also insurance will make it easy for the lay user. If a data feed is insured, then all you need to know is what your damages are and purchase a contract with a premium that matches those damages. And then it's as simple as buying insurance. You don't need to worry about any failure of data.
Yeah, as we've discussed here, not all data should go to the blockchain, only kind of aggregates or validated values when needed, which raises the question of how to select the raw data sources, where it comes from, And you can have various tactics there to kind of leave it up to the community to discover via different kind of reputation systems and so on. And this is something that we're building for the Streamr marketplace. But it's always good to have many different data sources if it's possible in the use case. Sometimes you just have one, and then you can maybe only rely on things like the identity of the producer of that data. So it's an interesting field.
Cool. So thank you to all the panelists for sharing their thoughts and to the audience for the attention. Thanks.
Thanks for joining.